Here we go.
Alright, what's up, family? Moving forward, I'll start this video off with a quick disclaimer, just so everybody has a clear understanding of what I'm trying to develop my channel into. I follow the great work of a pioneer named Mark Passio, and there are other individuals that their names aren't coming to me right now. I'll have to look them up. Maybe I'll put them in the description, that do very great work for levels of consciousness, knowing yourself, understanding yourself, coming to grips with your social behaviors, your idealisms, your worldview, perspective, basically principalities. And I was very inspired by this man in particular and a lot of his work that he does. I started out creating music. I had a passion for music, and I still do. I still write from time to time, and I might put out more music, try to hone my skills, because I've put out a few songs. They're on my channel now. They're not terrible, but they were what I consider to be steps forward to try to hone my skills, try to get better at it, try to step up my lyrical game. And it was always something that it's a far-fetched to think you could be real successful for music, but it's possible. I did a lot of it for fun, a lot of it for therapy. Of course, I would have loved to have been able to really move forward and make it a career, but it's not something that's very easy to do, even if you're good at it. I know some people that are quite good, and some people that are quite bad, but I also know some people that are pretty good that, they're just scraping by. So I also have always had a passion for wanting to help people, get through shit. I enrolled once upon a time in college to take psychology classes, because I wanted to be a psychologist, more importantly a child psychologist. I wanted to work with kids that came from broken homes, that had ugly or violent households that they came out of, to try to help redirect them. Obviously, I was nowhere near ready for school, because it was back when I was still struggling back and forth with my addiction and depression and shit. And but I've always had a passion for wanting to help people, and knowing that I had the equipment to begin to make videos, I knew I wanted to do something to put it out there to see if maybe I can help people get through, some of the people that were going through the types of things that I was going through, because I've been through it, and I'm 30 plus years now. It's when you go through all that stuff, you get a better idea what is needed to come out of it. It took me a long time. Some people go through it, some people are able to get out of it early. I got caught way up in it, and I created a lot of turmoil for myself, for some of the people around me, the people that cared for me. And it was watching a slow train wreck. It was rough. And having gone through those things, it helped me develop a more clear understanding of what the important things are to understand yourself and understand your behavior and understand why you are so susceptible to certain things. So just to make it clear, that is the basis, the center of what my channel is for and what I want to try to do. It's not even necessarily about me. Obviously, I use my experiences as a frame of reference, because it's a good way to frame a point, right? It's a good way to set an infrastructure for what my message is or what I'm trying to get across. And I don't have infinite wisdom. Okay, I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed in any way. I speak from a place of experience, life experience, and an experience of dealing with myself when I spent years of being my own worst enemy. And I always knew I would help bring myself out of it somehow, someday. It's just a lot of the times I felt, hey, I'll do it tomorrow, right? That's that, addict mindset. But just to make it clear, that's the intention of this channel, so I just wanted to make it very clear. Alright, so moving forward. So I wanted to quickly leave you with a short video from Mark Passio discussing and breaking down the general principles of natural law. You know, this is what my studies have been based around in trying to develop higher level of consciousness, self-understanding, just getting right down to it. What's important, what's real, what to center around. And I think Mark Passio does a great job of articulating what natural law is, breaking it down. Here's a video. I hope you like it. The general principles of natural law.
So let's look at some of the principles of natural law. Now, in my extended seminar, which goes over a 6-week class of lessons, I get into these principles deeply in an extended form. We're not going to do that today because time doesn't allow. I'm going to briefly touch on each one. Okay? The word principles, let's define it. Principle comes from the Latin noun principia. Principia means first, foremost, leading, chief, or most necessary. It is that which matters most. It is the first things that must be understood. Before anything else can be understood, principles have to come first. And this is the problem. Our society does not put principles first. It puts trivialities first, and we're no longer a society that even cares about principles or first things. So first things first. First things or principles have to come first. So let's look at what the principles that underlie natural law. These are the things that are most important. That's what principles should mean to people. If we ask people to define what a principle is, first thing they should say, that's the most important thing. The most important thing in my life. Now, when in the natural law seminar, we did a homework assignment. We asked people what the most important thing was to them. Very few responded with principles. Most people responded with saying that people or the family was the number one response. The familial connection was more important to them than principles. Now, when people hear me say that that's backwards, they'll say, how cold are you? That's so cold, okay? What I'm telling you is that the familial connection, no matter what it is, between a mother and a son, a mother and a daughter, a father and a son, father and a daughter, husband and wife, doesn't matter as much as principles. I'm not telling you they don't matter at all. I'm telling you you have to put principles first. Otherwise, those relationships are just meaningless. They don't really have any real value unless they're based upon principles first, which is why so many relationships are dysfunctional. Principles have to come first before you can even build a solid relationship with another human being. So, let's look at what some of the principles of how natural laws work first before we can actually find out what the expressions of these laws are in our lives, which will be the next section. These are what I call the general principles of natural law. Natural law is expressed through 7 basic underlying principles, plus what I have referred to as an 8th or hidden principle, which you hear very few other researchers, even people who are studying this from the occult perspective, who are studying this from the consequentialism perspective, you very hear them incorporate the 8th and all-encompassing principle, which I'll get to last here. This 8th principle, which I call the lost principle, binds all the other 7 principles together. All right? These principles together constitute a master key through which universal wisdom, including the knowledge of the requirements to obtaining what we desire, is then unveiled or de-occulted. When people ask me, well, what do you consider yourself in your performance of presenting what you present? I tell them, I consider myself a de-occultist. I'm no longer an occultist. I'm a de-occultist. I'm attempting to take this information out of hiding. It's been hidden. The hiding of it is destroying the fabric of our society and putting us into bondage. It needs to come out and be non-hidden. It needs to be unveiled and shared widely and freely with anybody who's capable of accepting it and comprehending it now. Because we're not in a position where we could wait longer. We're at the precipice. Okay? There is a moral obligation to bring this information to the public now, okay? So I consider myself a de-occultist, one who takes things out of hiding and presents them openly. These are the 7 general principles of natural law. Many people who have studied some variants of occultism may recognize these as what are known as the Hermetic principles. Hermetic essentially comes from Hermes. Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great one, as he was referred to in the ancient Greek mystery traditions. Okay? He was considered a messenger of the gods. He brought the wisdom of the gods down to humanity. Okay? In the ancient Egyptian and Cometian traditions, he was the scribe of the gods known as Thoth. All right? He has other incarnations as well. But the Hermetic tradition is named such because it's hermetically sealed, like natural law is. Natural law is hermetically sealed. It is binding principles that are immutable. They are laws that are in operation that cannot be changed. Hence, they are hermetically sealed. So, these 7 general principles, they are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, which is a huge one, which we'll be getting into, and gender. Now, I'm going to briefly describe what each of these are and what they are about.